Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Liz Schaller. I am the NIMAC director, joined today by two co-presenters. One, Rosemary Horton Baggott, who's been leading our Braille 2000 textbook transcription series and is here today for our Session 6 Q&A. And then also Nicole Gaines, who's our NIMAC project director, and she's going to talk to you about eBraille today. So very excited to have you here today. We will pause, as usual, several times throughout for questions. And then we also want this to be kind of free discussion towards the end of the meeting as well. So, feel free to unmute and ask your questions out loud or put them in the chat. Either way is totally fine. Now, let's see who we have joining us today. Which option best describes your role? Are you a NIMAC authorized user or state coordinator? A NIMAC accessible media producer? A Braille transcriber not registered with the NIMAC? A TVI or paraprofessional, or other? Okay, let's see our results. So looks like about half our folks today are NIMAC users. Similar breakdown to what we've had the rest of the series. We're so glad to have you with us today. If we take a look back last week during session 5, we talked about alphabetic references and how to format those. And we also talked about how to import NIMAS files that contain MathML or math tagging into Braille 2000, either directly or through a Braille Blaster intermediate step import. And then we also looked at how to edit and format math, both in UEB Technical as well as in Nemeth. It was a busy session last session. For today, our learning objectives are to understand the components of an eBraille file, to understand the timeline for eBraille production, and to learn about creating large print and EPUB from NIMAS. So today, first we're going to start with slides that cover kind of an overview of the eBraille file format. That's what Nicole is going to talk with you about, as well as our kind of current timeline that we're looking at for producing and reading the eBraille format. Then we're going to cover a bunch of resources for you. There are some that the NIMAC offers, and then some others that Rosemary pulled together that will hopefully be very useful to you in your work. And then there are a few lingering things that Rosemary is going to demonstrate, as well as we really want your questions. We hope that you brought questions with you today that we can dive into as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or wherever you happen to be. If it is not afternoon, I hope you're having a good day. So I'm pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you a little bit about eBraille. It is a new digital Braille format that we hope is going to be really useful and really beneficial, especially for the students that we serve. In terms of what eBraille is it's really a new digital format to support a new generation of multi-line refreshable Braille devices. For the first time, we actually have AT that will allow students and adults who are Braille readers to access well-formatted Braille with integrated digital graphics in one file for a seamless experience for the user. And so this is the primary motivation for developing the eBraille technical specification. And one benefit of this is that it's going to provide a more compact alternative to embossed Braille, the opportunity for students in particular to have many textbooks just loaded on a device without carrying really bulky embossed Braille volumes. It also addresses some limitations of other Braille formats that I'll talk with you about in just a moment. And of course, the ultimate goal is to just get Braille into the hands of readers more quickly. So some of the advantages of eBraille are that it combines the flexibility of ebooks that that those of us who are sighted, if we use eBraille, or I'm sorry, if we use ebooks from, on our Kindle, or if we get ebooks from the library, we're used to a lot of flexibility there in terms of uh, being reflowable and having really robust navigation. And so these are a couple of the benefits that eBraille also offers. It will work on multiple devices without losing the correct formatting. It will be able to reflow. And again, it does integrate those tactile graphics in the same file set, with the Braille file, as opposed to having Braille separate from the graphics. So for folks who are familiar with the BRF format, which I think probably everybody is familiar with it who's participating today, but to kind of underscore what some of the differences are, is that eBraille uses Unicode instead of ASCII Braille. And so one advantage of Unicode is that it always means the exact same thing. It is actually a specific code that shows exactly where the dots are. And so there's not any kind of interpretation that may come into play with different flavors of ASCII that are used in different settings. It also uses markup and CSS, which is a cascading style sheet, instead of blank space to indicate formatting. Again, like with a BRF, the way that different types of formatting in terms of it's a list, it's a heading 1, it's a heading 2, it's a centered heading. This is all captured by blank space in the BRF file, which means that it's hard coded and not reflowable. But using markup, uh, that's what kind of allows that reflowability. Another advantage is that eBraille supports internal and external links. And that simply means that if you have an internal link, for example, between a page number and a table of contents to that page, you can actually have that as an active link in the eBraille file to support navigation. That's not something that's possible in a BRF file. And you also have the opportunity to have external links as well, hyperlinks. If there is a hyperlink in a book, and your device also happens to have a browser, you can click on that link and open that website in your browser and go directly to that page. So just a much more robust format. And again, that dynamic formatting does allow you to port that uh, eBraille file from a multi-line display to a single line display without losing, again, the fidelity of the formatting. Metadata is also incorporated into the file. It's as an OPF file. If you're familiar with NIMAS, you may already know, oh, OPF, that sounds familiar. It's the exact same file format, except that it's used in the eBraille format, but it's for the same purpose, which is to capture that metadata as well as a few other things. And then again, that the graphics are bundled together in that same package. So to talk a little bit more about what eBraille is and the different components of it, I will say that if you are familiar with the EPUB format, this is going to look very familiar to you because eBraille is basically a flavor of EPUB. And basically, it will validate to the EPUB specification. And so in the same way that the HTML provides the structure of a website or a web page, that same tagging is what provides the structure in an eBraille file. And so again, it's that when we're talking about this is a paragraph, this is a heading, this is a list, it's that the tagging in that HTML that identifies what those different structures are. And that in turn enables the device to display those in the correct way. And again, as I already mentioned, by using that HTML, we have that built-in capacity to use links in the content. So in terms of ensuring that eBraille displays correctly, and in the US, what that means is we're wanting to make sure that that the Braille is displayed in accordance with BANA guidelines. It's the cascading style sheet in the eBraille that ensures that that happens correctly. One of the things that I find particularly exciting about this is that it means that if we have an eBraille file for a particular book, whether it's a novel or even possibly at some point a textbook, probably not K through 12 textbooks, but if there's a book that's been produced by another English speaking in another English speaking country, they may have a whole different set of rules similar to our banner rules. What we would be able to do is actually just switch out the CSS for that eBraille and using the exact same content, have that be a book that meets the requirements uh, for the Braille specifications in our country. And so that's really exciting in terms of making eBraille a much easier format to share. So again, the overall purpose of the CSS is it's going to tell that your reading software how to display the content. So it's going to control where the lines begin, the spacing, and any kind of special layout, right? And again, it's going to ensure that the formatting remains consistent across whatever device you're using. So the next part I already made a brief allusion to is the metadata. This is probably something that has greater potential if you happen to run a library or an instructional resource center. You might find this really valuable. Um, the thing that we really like about the OPF metadata for the NIMAC, for example, is we actually, when we receive files from publishers, we extract that metadata to create the system records. If you've ever searched the NIMAC and wondered, hey, where did that system record come from? You're probably the first person, because I don't know if a lot of people really wonder about that. But it does come from the OPF, and so just kind of in the bigger picture, having that metadata reside in the eBraille file, and that tells you this is the title, this is the ISBN, the publisher, the copyright date, the grade level, having all of that together in the file can just be very useful in terms of managing your collection, and then also just ensuring that you know exactly what it is in the file set that you have in front of you. Um, and again, it just makes it easier to search, share, and keep collections accessible. And then the last part, and again, I think it is really, in a lot of ways, the most exciting part of eBraille is that the eBraille can include those tactile graphics as well as image descriptions. You know, not all eBraille files may include tactile graphics. Some of them may include image descriptions, um, but eBraille will actually support a range of image formats. In the format, it will support JPEG, PNG, SVG, and then PDF. And so, a couple of things that are really important caveats. One thing that I would note is that if you're thinking, well, PDF is actually its own file format. It's not an image file format. Uh, it, that is exactly right. And the reason that that was actually included as an accepted file format for tactile graphics in eBraille was simply because it's a very common format for tactile graphics, at least currently. We do anticipate that, well, we don't know. We would hope that over time there might be sort of an evolution toward a greater use of SVG, because SVG can is a really beneficial graphics format, because it can basically be blown up to any size without losing its fidelity, without losing resolution. But you can use PDF as well. And I would also note that if you've worked with NIMAS before, you may know that, hey, sometimes you have SVG images or PNG or JPEGs in those NIMAS files. And just to clarify, there's not an automatic way to turn those source file images into usable tactile graphics at this time. You know, so in terms of the transcription piece, it's still the same. You know, we still need that skilled transcriber input to make those determinations of this graphic requires a description, this graphic requires a tactile graphic. And so as a part of eBraille creation, which I'll also point to a little bit more in a moment, that's still a really important part. But just to kind of circle back, a range of image file formats can be supported for your tactile graphics in the eBraille format. I'll also point out that alt text for graphics is required for the very first time in a Braille format, so that's really useful. And again, just kind of having those graphics bundled together with the Braille files, just you're not going to lose them. You're not going to lose your tactile graphics files because they're all zipped up together in that same eBraille file. So again, so just to recap a little bit about the different components. And this again, this is not something if you have exported a file, like if you've used hopefully Duxbury soon will have the capability to export, or if you've used the conversion tool, a conversion tool to create your eBraille. This is not stuff that you're going to necessarily need to, you're not going to see these. The end user is not going to see these, but just so that you kind of know what's underneath the hood. Again, that HTML, that's where your content is living. It gives the book the structure. The CSS is applying your Braille formatting rules. That metadata lives there with the file to tell you what it is. And then again, the tactile graphics serve the same role as an embossed Braille. And again, these just work all together. All of these pieces create an eBraille file, and that it's a complete, consistent, and accessible format, all together in one, basically one zipped format. So the next thing I want to talk about, I'm going to talk just in a second about where we are with creating and reading eBraille. But before I get to that, I just want to kind of recap again some benefits to users and organizations about the format. And so, as I mentioned earlier on, kind of the primary impetus for moving forward with the eBraille specification was to really ensure that students and other tactile readers could really benefit from a new generation of multi-line refreshable Braille devices. That was really sort of the initial motivating force. Like, hey, we've got this, we're going to have these devices, and we really want to use them to their full capability, right? But that is not to say that we don't want it to be a versatile format. We want it to be a versatile format. And so it has been envisioned from the beginning as a format that we want to work well on single line displays, multi-line displays, and also for embossing as well. The full support of eBraille across the plethora of devices, embossers, and that kind of thing, it's not there yet. That's something that continues to be a work in progress. Again, some of the benefits in terms of users we've already highlighted, which is simply that navigation it's going to provide a robustness of navigation that students have not had before using BRF files. The tactile graphics again are in there. The metadata is in there. And the other piece of this as well is that because it's built on EPUB, this mainstream publishing standard, this isn't a proprietary format, it's a global standard. And as technology grows, the hope is that we've basically future-proofed this specification because it's going to be able to sort of evolve over time with that EPUB specification as it changes. And then another benefit, if you happen to be a Braille producer, is that corrections to a file or even creating a new edition, like if you are working from an existing book and there's a new edition, but it's only got one new chapter and most of the book hasn't changed, it's going to make it much, much easier to create, edit, distribute those new editions. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit now about producing and reading eBraille. And where we are right now, there's several exciting projects that are going on now to really gear up for producing eBraille. And I will just say that if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've never produced eBraille before, and I'm really behind the times. Well, the truth is you are not behind the times at all because we are still uh, these tools are still in development. They are not ready for prime time yet, but we're really excited about where we hope that things will be within the next 6 months, 4 to 6 months, with some of these tools. And so, to highlight a few, Duxbury has been working on a Save as eBraille export that had been in beta testing. I have not been able to get an update on where things are with that currently, but we are still hoping that by the end of this calendar year, I would hope that they would be in a position to release that version of their software. APH has also been working on a converter, a free tool that is going to be actually a test version of it is already available from the APH website. If you're interested in that, feel free to ping me offline and I can get you the most recent version. I'm not sure that the most recent version of the test version is on our website, but we'd be happy to share that. The idea behind this tool is that what it's going to allow folks to do is that if you have your own library of Braille that was produced for embossing, you've got your BRFs, you've got your PDFs, and you would like to turn those into eBraille, it's a tool that literally instantly can do that for you. You navigate to where your BRFs are, you navigate to where your PDFs are, you click a button, and out comes your eBraille. It's kind of magical. Now, it'll be more magical when it works a little better. So I'll just say that it's not again. We're it's got some bugs right now, but we are hoping that by September of this year we will have a production ready release. Similarly, we're also working on the Braille Blaster software. If you're a Braille Blaster user or a Braille Blaster fan, we've been working on eBraille support in that tool, and we have kind of a late 2026 uh, target date for having that released, and we would definitely be happy to keep you posted on that. Another thing that's really exciting is that APH has been involved in a broader student pilot project with the Monarch where I believe that currently there are about maybe 300 students in K through 12 who are piloting the Monarch in the classroom. And so as a part of that, we are really looking forward to doing some initial field testing of eBraille in the classroom with those students beginning in October. So very excited about that. And as a side note, when you're ready, eBraille, we've added eBraille as a format capability in the NIMAS. So if you are an accessible media producer and you're planning to, once you're ready to make that available, you can log into your account and add that to your format capabilities. So in terms of reading eBraille, again, this is kind of the flip side of the coin. In order to really fully implement this new file format, we need to be able to produce it and we need to be able to read it. So the Monarch device is the first multi-line display that supports eBraille. It does that using the Victor Reader app, APH's technology partner for the reader and actually for all of the software that is on the Monarch is Humanware. We've worked with them on that. And then Humanware actually in turn has relied really heavily on Dolphin to work on that eBraille support for the Victor Reader. So it's really been a group effort to get that underway. Other devices that will soon have eBraille support are the Mantis and Chameleon. Those are single line refreshable displays. There's also the ability, if you have a screen reader, it actually is possible to access eBraille. It requires renaming the file format, unzipping it, and so forth. I don't really advise that as the first line of strategy there for accessing. But if you're interested in that and you're curious, again, you feel free to ping offline, and I'd be happy to give you more information about that. But ultimately, what we really hope is that we will build more support for eBraille over time, and that a lot more devices will support it. So, in terms of next steps and future developments, before I hand it back off, I will just note that we are really focused now in terms of the specification level work and sort of outreach and trying to get traction in the field. There are several things that are ongoing right now. One of them is developing some software to make reading eBraille files easier with an older display. Some of the older single line displays have some difficulty reading it. So that's that's a technology challenge that's on the radar. We're also advocating again with those hardware and software vendors, particularly with embossers, to try to figure out how we can make it again, make eBraille that more versatile format that we really envision. We've also been working, we'll also be continuing to work to refine the CSS and other aspects of eBraille based on feedback. You know, one of the things that is personally of interest to me is that I'm very interested to see uh, what kind of feedback we get related to tactile graphics experiences using the eBraille format. I think it'll be really great to get that from the students in the pilot. Another thing that's on the radar is reviewing the complex formatting needs for music braille. Music braille is really an exciting sort of potential that we see for the Monarch and for just for multi-line displays more generally. So that's an area of interest. And then kind of a little bit longer term is that there has been some interest expressed in uh, trying to figure out how could we have an eBraille file that had a dual or multiple rendition. For example, if you wanted to have sort of almost like a full Daisy experience where you had like you could have like a recorded audio synced with the Braille text, that kind of thing. And so there will be some further looking into that. So a lot that's on the radar, a lot that's underway. And so again, just looking forward uh, to seeing how things develop in the next few months. And I'll also just note that we will also be doing a lot of training and a lot of there'll be a lot of developing of resources once these tools, especially for creating eBraille, once these are kind of ready for prime time, we will really have a good strong push to get some training out there for folks to get them acquainted with how to produce the format. So that was quite a bit. Before I hand it off, are there any questions about eBraille?
I think, Nicole, maybe one main question for folks in this group might be, regarding Braille 2000 and support for eBraille and Braille 2000.
Yeah, so I think that when it comes to Braille 2000, they're back during the development of the technical specification, there was actually quite a bit of outreach to Braille 2000 to explore how generating eBraille kind of natively using Braille 2000, trying to get some traction around that. That was something that Braille 2000 was not really interested in exploring. But I will say that at the very least, there are a couple pieces to it. One of them is that there will be that BRF to eBraille conversion tool, which is a standalone tool that will be available free of charge to folks. And so if you happen to be a Braille 2000 user, you will have that opportunity or have that ability to do that as kind of your final step. You've created your Braille, want to create the eBraille, and you will be able to use that converter for that. And my hope is also, in terms of other tools that are out there, like with Braille Blaster also being a free tool, my hope would also be that that will also be a support to Braille 2000 users, especially if it comes to not necessarily needing to make changes to the Braille, but if you decide, hey, I created this particular tactile graphic for embossing, it's not really ideal for digital display. I'd like to tweak it a little bit. My hope would be that Braille Blaster would be at least one of the tools that could be used to swap out the graphics in a quick and easy way in order to have that eBraille be the optimal format. So just a couple of thoughts there.
Thanks, Nicole.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to unmute, or you can put them in the chat. I'm not seeing any in the chat at the moment.
Hi, this is Jonathan. I'm just wondering if Corel Draw graphics are on the horizon at all, if there's a way to add them into a um, eBraille book.
So do you mean like without having to export them in another format? Like what file format would you be wanting the eBraille to support? What image file format?
Well, Corel Draw. I just know I make my graphics, and I think a lot of other transcribers do using Corel Draw, and the Braille's right on the page with the graphic, and then the agency embosses them on whatever equipment they have.
Hmm. That's an interesting thought. I think that again, in terms of the way that the 1.0 technical specification is developed, there is that, this set of image file formats that I mentioned are the ones that are supported. But if you would like to connect, contact me offline, I'd be happy to kind of, put forward that idea in terms of like, is this something that we could consider in terms of additional image format that could be supported in the format? I mean, I think that what I'm not really clear about is the way that it works, like in terms of the way that you would be using if you've got your graphic in Corel Draw, you're still going to be you're going to be like, yeah, I'm not sure technically I understand how it would work, but I'd be happy to have a conversation with you offline about it. So thanks for bringing that up.
One person did put in the chat that you can uh, publish to PDF or SVG in Corel as well. So there could be some exporting options there to take a look at too.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the main reasons that PDF was included as a graphics format is because I think that a lot of the Corel folks do use that export as PDF, and so um, I think that's really common.
And then we have one other question in the chat. Will there have to be changes to formats to switch to eBraille, i.e. the formatting rules? So would there be changes to formatting rules for eBraille?
Yeah, and so the answer to that would be no. The formatting rules are basically uh, they're the same formatting rules, and like I say, the in terms of on the transcriber side, at this point, it's like that the transcriber steps and what you're doing to format that well formatted Braille. That's basically you're going to do the way that you do it when you do your save as eBraille or what have you. It's going to save that Unicode Braille. It's going to actually interpret that formatting and apply the correct HTML tags to those structures. And then that CSS is going to ensure that like the banner rules are applied at the reader level when you open that file on the device. Does that answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Not seeing any others in the chat.
Okay, well, thanks very much. Appreciate the time to talk with you guys about eBraille. And again, the main message is stay tuned because we should have a lot more to share in the coming months. So thanks again.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so let's jump into some more resources that uh, may be useful to you in your current work. One of which we want to highlight are the large print templates and macros for Word that were developed by the Ocali's and Aim Center. We worked with them on a training around these that Alexa just put the link in the chat. So you can watch the video on how to install, quote unquote, install. They're just files, but how to get the files loaded onto your computer, and then how to utilize Word to produce large print from NIMAS. It's really, I think, pretty easy to do once you get going, and it allows for a lot of customization if you're looking to produce either hard copy large print or reflowed large print for a device, a specific screen size. There are a lot of options and a lot of customization for specific student needs in terms of colors and contrast and font size and all of that. So super, I think, customizable. And if you do have any questions about how to get started or as you're going along, please do reach out to O'Cally. They're happy to help with that. I also wanted to highlight that there is a free EPUB conversion tool to convert NIMAS to EPUB. It's called the DAISY Pipeline 2, and it was produced by the DAISY Consortium, and it's a really quick and easy way to convert NIMAS files to accessible EPUB. We have a download link that Alexa just put in the chat, and we also put together a how-to video on how to get started, because I think the interface itself might be a little bit intimidating when you first get in, but it's actually really simple and straightforward. The main thing is that there are a lot of different conversion scripts within the pipeline. So you want to make sure that you're selecting the appropriate DT book, which is also NIMAS, to EPUB conversion. And then you just navigate to the NIMAS XML file that you want. Make sure you select that it won't validate, so it won't hang up on a weird issue, and check to ensure that you're utilizing NIMAS as your input format, and then you run the conversion. And we have a brief video that walks you through all of those steps. But if you do have any questions or want some help getting started with that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And then finally, I wanted to make sure to mention our Braille 2000 user group. We host a quarterly virtual meeting for Braille 2000 users. I think many of you have joined us there before, and it is hosted by Rosemary. And those meetings focus on a really specific topic and then provide opportunity for discussion. We encourage folks to attend who attend to bring your questions with you. And we've had, I think, some really good and fun discussions in those meetings. We have our two coming up, two remaining meetings this year. One is Thursday, September 10th. And then our last meeting of the year will be Thursday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Alexa put both of those registration links in the chat. I hope that you'll be able to join us there. And Rosemary, do you have anything that you want to add about the user group?
It is just that we welcome input on topics that people would like to discuss. I think there's been some talk about possibly looking more into tables in September, but we're open to input, suggestions, questions. Hey, I'd like to see this, or hey, I have this to share. Especially welcome people sharing. Don't just come
Absolutely.
for presentation. Come to with questions and input. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good space, I think, to learn from each other. So, yeah, thank you. All right, well, let's take a look at some other resources then, Rosemary.
Okay. These general ones, did you want to go through this slide, Liz? The general?
Yeah, these are just general resources, many of which are offered through APH that you may or may not be familiar with, including the Braille refreshers. Those are fun emails that you can get that just ask you a quick question about Braille formatting. So it can be a good opportunity, especially if you're a teacher or you produce accessible formats, but you're not transcribing 100% of your time. It can be a good way to kind of keep your skills fresh in your mind. Of course, the TGIL, or the Tactile Graphic Image Library at APH, that's a great place to go if you need kind of starting point graphics for something that you're working on. You can download the TGIL is free to access through your account, and you can download and then customize the graphics that you download from the TGIL. So again, that can be a really good starting point for you for producing graphics. We also have the APH Access Academy and APH Hive linked here, both of which from time to time offer trainings specifically for Braille transcribers, but also a lot more general training around devices and services and everything that APH has to offer. I think there will be quite a bit of eBraille training coming out through the Hive and the Access Academy over the next year. So those are good. I think you can subscribe to the list to get reminders about upcoming webinars and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend that. Um, we also have the National Braille Association Ask an Expert. Hopefully most of you are familiar with that, but that's a great place to go to ask your questions if you encounter something weird or funky in your book, you aren't sure how to handle it. And similarly, CNIB is the Canadian organization. They have a lot of resources on their site as well. Oh, and there are so many links we're going through right now. Just to note, Alexa put actually the link to the slide deck in the chat. So if you download the slide deck for today's webinar, you'll have access to all of these links.
Thank you, Liz. Yes, so the next one, the transcriber resources, and picking up with where Liz left off, the CNIB, the Canadian, I forget exactly what it stands for, but very helpful resource. When a few years back there was confusion about where to get certifications, you can get your certification through CNIB, and it's pretty reasonably priced. I think I did my UEB certification there, and so the courses available online in transcription of UEB technical, proofreading, and music Braille. There's more, but that specifically applies for us as transcribers. ICEB rules of UEB, including guidelines to technical materials and IPA Braille, especially with the UEB development over the last several years, and the fact that there are some things that they were experimenting with. Well, some people do it this way and some people do it this way. You can do it this way. Sometimes I can't find exactly what I need in one resource, but I'll cross resources. It might be an obscure issue, like a couple of years ago, it was the check mark. Is it .4146 or is it .5146? That kind of thing. So these resources are good ones to check through. So I think the next slide, Braille certification instruction manuals. Yeah. Oh, you're on this. I'm on my other screen with my notes. Okay, so the BANA resources, code books and guidelines. We've been using these and gone through them. Braille formats is available. I created links here for both the HTML or the online Principles of Print Braille Transcription. If you go to the BANA website, the one at the top, it will list a lot of these other resources, but this was kind of a quick reference of what's available on there now. Unified English Braille code books, the guidelines and standards for tactile graphics, early learning materials if you're transcribing for up to third grade. There are different ones listed on that BANA website, and they'll take you right into it there. There's also the errata and updates are listed on the same page, and yeah, that's what I had for that one. Had something in my notes. APH full, that's for math one. Okay. My notes are for the next slide. Are you doing to the next slide?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The music Braille code, IPA Braille, that's got to the International Phonetic Alphabet is listed in there. If you're running into a foreign language transcription or something like that, it's all on there. Guidelines for Braille transcription of languages other than English, which Braille 2000 has several that it will convert to. and then you use these guidelines to make sure and you're proofreading them. It does French, English, of course, French, Spanish, Italian, German, probably some others I'm not remembering, but that's on the Braille 2000 menu. Crafts and hobbies. I haven't looked at that one myself, but it looks interesting. And then the Banner publications. Some of these are available for purchase, either PDF format or print format. So, yeah. So, and math and science on the Banner website is the Nemeth code. Braille Authority of North America. It has the Nemeth code with UEB. It includes, now there are separate links listed there, but every one I clicked took me back to this original one at the top. But what's included on there is the Nemeth Braille code for Math and Science Notation 2022, both print and Braille editions. The errata for the Nemeth Braille code 2022, chemical notation using the Nemeth Braille code 2023 and the errata, and then graphing calculator guidelines. They're all available through this link at the top of this slide. And then there are, if you go to CNIB, there are also the courses in the transcription of UAB technical. So that's it. Now these two slides here, we've heard from Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you so much for all you've done to make this easier for a lot of us. His YouTube channel, Braille Tips, includes the videos. He one of them, well, I have a new one and another slide coming up, but pretty much taught some of these things, and then he goes into more in depth on his YouTube channel. So there's one on generating special symbols page for Braille 2000, how to use it to that one we did in one of the sessions. The contents and 6-tel cell indent was is that the one we used for a table of contents? Probably renamed it, and I have this on there twice by mistake. But formatting with speed Braille, generating glossary guide words. I used a lot of those videos of Jonathan's just to go through the procedure, and then he's got more on the videos than we actually covered. The gray line, I have to look at that one again. That gray line that appears, and there is a way to deal with it other than I just work around it. I'm going to go back and check that one out, but go to the next slide, please. Okay, find and extend. Microsoft Word grid generator tool for Tiger graphics. So Jonathan does a lot, I think, with Word. And so there are some of these, there's another one in here, how to fix your Tiger Word template, generate grids in Word with macros. So if you're somebody who uses Microsoft Word to help with your transcription or wants to use Microsoft Word, he's got information on there. Tip 3, line breaks. If that means how to get, okay, all right, that one may not be available, but thanks, Jonathan. I was just putting them all on here. That line break, if that has to do with getting rid of that line break annotation that keeps making it difficult for me to navigate through the file, shoot me something in the chat. I was looking at that the other day. I looked at this one recently. So how to use the Braille 2000 and the PDF viewer on one monitor. That was for me recently when I couldn't figure out how to do it. So thank you. How to just adjust the view, the display of Braille 2000. And how to make drawing pages in Braille 2000. Line breaks just forces run over where you want it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jonathan. So the last one, how to make, I'm sorry, what was that last one? How to make Braille drawing pages in Braille 2000. I'm going to demonstrate briefly later how to create the drawing page indicator on the page, but he goes into depth on how to actually take all your drawing pages in a file and format them to import to the Tiger or wherever you're going to go. So that's a more detailed video on what we're going to look at later. So thank you, Liz. Next one. And then Corel Draw. A few more resources. This is access to the Corel Draw, which a lot of people use for graphics, the tactile macros for Corel Draw, and the Braille 29 font for use with that. Did you, is that, does this actually link to the font, or is there another way to get that?
It does.
It
Yes.
does, okay.
Yeah.
And what that is, this didn't save. What the Braille 29 font is the one we use in Corel, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, that when you do a graphic page in Corel, and I'll demonstrate this later, you combine it with your Braille 2000 page. So this is the font that we use to get the Braille in the size that is standard Braille. So I tried to access this online recently because I was starting out with a different laptop, and it needs to just be installed on your laptop and then it's available. And I couldn't find it because there was some kind of notification that something happened in 2024 that they switched to Braille 36 font. So I'm in the middle of projects. I'm not going to switch font in the middle of a project. So I'm continuing with 29. I checked with the agency director where I'm transcribing for, and they're like, yeah, we're using the Braille 29. I'd be curious to know. I think the Braille 36 has something to do with it being able to emboss it on the swell paper. But I'd be curious, this is my own curious, from any Braille readers on here, to know your thoughts on the whole thing of switching font types. I was a teacher long before a transcriber, and I just know when you're learning to read the Braille at a certain size, I would have Braille readers say, "What is this? I can't read. What is this?" Because the size of the cell had been changed in a different format. So I got that. I get that for the young grades as they're learning. It's like sighted readers would start out with large print, and eventually the shape goes to the smaller print. We see that visually, but with tactily. So I just want to know if any Braille readers on here, and just say yes or no in the chat. I have no problem switching between font size, or yes, it's challenging. I'm just curious. So collect those for me.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah. So, and
Done with
this font is on there. You just have to download it on your computer, and it'll work with the Corel. So demo time.
yeah. We have a couple things that we're going to demo today. Let me just double check and see if there are any questions. I know there was an issue with the links that Alexa fixed, so thank you for doing that, Alexa. Great. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions, so I think let's um, hop over to our two demo topics, and then we can switch sharing and you can do the demos.
Okay, so I still need my slides here. I guess I'm going. So I'm going to share now.
No, I'll share the slides and then yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. They
Yeah.
have me there first. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I had some notes, and the notes are not. They didn't. Okay, I do have the one. Okay, it's on there. Yeah, so bookmarks. We looked at bookmarks one of the days, and I've used them throughout. And so someone brought up the define bookmark feature of Braille 2000, and basically I'm going to go through that and demonstrate it. When we set it there to set a bookmark, this is what we've been doing. The command is panel or Alt P, bookmark, which is the B, and then set, and then you either you have your X, Y, Z, or the options that are given. If you want to create more options than that, there's a slightly different tool. You use the search, Alt S, and then D for define bookmark. And I'll demonstrate this, and you can take any letter combination and create your own. So that's, I think I'd kind of heard that before. I never used it, but I've been playing around with it the last couple of days. Thank you, Julie, for that suggestion. And it's great, and I think you'll see how people can use it to navigate through and format, transcribe. Now, this was interesting, to find the bookmarks that you create, there are two different two different processes and they do exactly the same thing. The one I've been using is the panel or P, Alt P, bookmark or B, and then J for jump to, and you jump to whichever letter you want, whether it's X, Y, Z, A, B, C, or whatever you've created. The other way is the search Alt S, and then under mark or M, you put same thing, X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I'll show you both. It's still, my fingers do one automatically, and I'm not even sure anymore. But they're both available, but that's to find them. To set the bookmark, you use the panel. To define a new one, or more, use the second command above. But this is a way to create your own shortcuts for navigation. Thank you. And then the second demo I'm going to do is just a little bit on how to put a graphic file together with a Braille 2000 page. And so first, the process is first in your Braille 2000 page, you're going to create space for the graphic. That's there are guidelines for how to do that, very specific guidelines in the resources listed before. And at this point, I kind of eyeball it. And then when I do the graphic, I might need to adjust my file. So that's the step. But then create a drawing space is pretty simple. Just Alt D, D for drawing space and enter. And that creates a little icon on there that I'll show you later. And on Jonathan's video, he shows you how to enlarge that little yellow box if you want it bigger, which I'm grateful for because I look at that and I thought, this is small. I wonder if people can see that well. And then you copy that text. There's a way to copy the text into Corel. I'll demonstrate it again. He goes over it on his video, the copying lines. And then you have your text in the Corel page. After that, you either draw your graphic on that page, or if you have the NIMAS files, you can go into the image file, find the image you want, copy it, paste it. The little print image will show on top of your Corel page. You can trace that, enlarge it, shrink it to whatever size you need, draw around the image, and then delete the print afterwards, and you have the image left in the Corel using the tools that are in there. And then if you need to label, use the Braille 29 font. So I will demonstrate that. One quick thing to be aware of when using Corel Draw, if the newer versions can open older ones with no trouble, but it doesn't go the other way. If you're sending a file to an agency and you have the most recent version of the 2026, I guess, or at least 2025. I don't know if there's a 26 out there. I'm using one from 2024. If I'm sending to someone that has 2024 or higher, they can open it. But if I'm sending to someone who's still using, say, 2021, I have to save as, I have to send it over. No, if they have 24 or higher, yes. But if they have, let's say they have 2021 and I'm using 2024, I have to save that as the earlier date for them to open it. And I'll show that. And then it works. So.
Hey. Well, thanks, Rosemary. So I can go ahead and stop sharing my screen now so that you can take over and do the demo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go over that demo on the bookmarks we were just talking about. I got to the top of my file. I have an automatic top of the file. My fingers just go Control Home and it takes me up there. Control End takes me to the end of the file. So back to Control Home, I'm at the top of the file. If I want to bookmark, the panel for the bookmark, it's Panel, is Alt P, showed this the other day, and then Panel B for bookmark, or scrolling down here, I hit the B, and then I either select J for jump to or S for set. So I'm going to go to set, and notice the options are X, Y, Z. So I'm not going to set anything right now because I've already set an X. bookmark in this file. And right now I'm going to jump to it. I'm going to do search. That's what I do. Search M for bookmark and then X. And it jumps to the page where I'm going to do the demo for the graphic. Okay. But let's say I want to do some other ones. I'll go back to the top of the file. Let's go down here to, this is a secondary title page, which is only there in the first volume. But let's say I want to set one for special symbols. I can do the panel bookmark. Oh, I can do panel bookmark set and pick an XYZ, or let's say I want something specifically that I'm going to remember. I use the other command, define, Alt D, and define is, I'd say D, define, not define drawing space, not Alt D, that's something else. Search, Alt S, and the command define bookmark. And I select that by hitting a D. Now, someone said that it's also possible to right click on the little bookmark thing over here. I don't even know if I find that. Here it is. Here's the bookmark tool over there. You can right click on that and it pulls open these windows. I don't use my mouse much for navigating. So I'm going to do the search, define bookmark. And now I can enter something. So I'm going to just randomly say I'm going to enter an S for the special symbols page. And I just enter that here, select define or hit enter. Now my cursor was here. The first thing you have to do is set your cursor. So I just made that. Let's go back home. Search the mark. Now I have the S option available. I hit the S and it's where I left my bookmark. I'm going to fix that. Say define, or search, define. There's my S. Let me see if it changes here. I'm changing where it is now. Yeah, so now it's at the beginning of the special symbol page. I go to the home, I do search, mark, S. Nope. My fingers automatically do search, mark, X. Because they're close. There's the special symbols. I'll just do one more. So here I am, the transcriber's note page. I want to do a quick reference to this because I'm going to come back here. If I have to insert any notes through my transcription, I can name that one T. So I'll do search, define, T, enter, and that's now there. If I'm at the end of the file, Control End, I get back to search, mark, T, and it takes me there. So some people end up using those for a lot to format their files. So that's all for that. Unless anybody has any questions, you can just basically create your own and remember as you go.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. One person did ask about how you got Braille 2000 to condense to half the screen and make the Braille fit, and Jonathan said he has a video about that, and he put the link in the chat.
That's cute. He put it in the chat, and it's on one of those slides, and all those ones listed on the slides are going to be available. Those are all direct links too, right, Liz?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Liz. Okay. So the next demo is going to be the tactile graphics. I'm sitting here in the middle of a table of contents. I'm just going to search, use that bookmark, search mark X, because I set that earlier. So here I have a page, and I'll show print view for a minute. Some moles. There's a graphic that goes in here. And I've left space for it, and I kind of guesstimated based just from experience of how much room I'm going to need for that graphic. And with the NIMAS file, which I have open here, these are the components of the NIMAS file. I'm going to click on the images. Now this is in Unit 1 of the book, so I'm going to go here to this collection, Unit 1, click on that, and this shows all the images that appear throughout that unit. And talked about this before. These are in the MathML, a lot of the problems are imported as images and often as math too, but I'm going to come down here. This image right here is the one I want. And I know that from the print. I'm looking at print and I said, this is the image that goes on this page. I can click on that, copy it, Control C, and get this. I'll come over here and click on my, well, okay, I skipped a step. Yeah. Wrong step. Where's my Corel file? Before I do that, I thought I left you over here. They don't always stay where they want. Okay, I copied that image from the image file. I'm going to select here in the middle. This is the, how did I do this? I didn't show how to do this yet. This is what I'm going to show you how to do. I'm going to make that go away. So I went over here. I'm going to delete that page. So I have here my Corel Draw file and my Braille 2000 file. So I might be able to get this to work. Nope. Sort of. I'm almost afraid to do this. I don't know if this is going to mess things up, but here's my Braille 2000 page. I want to put this Braille 2000 over here on this page. Now this has already been formatted to receive the Braille 2000 page. So I go to the top of the Braille page. I want 25 lines and I'm going to highlight the whole page. I just do that control page, shift page down. There's a copy feature over here. I don't want to left click. I want to right click on it and copy the lines. And again, this is something Jonathan demonstrates in his video. Then I go over to Corel and I paste, Control V. You're importing or pasting text which contains formatting, maintain fonts and formatting. Yes. Not sure why it's telling me that. I've done this before on this file. So just enlarge this now. Now what I have is the Corel page and I might have messed something up because I enlarged that for the demo. Enlarged the screen. Let me see. It shouldn't have come in like that.
Oh, Jonathan said you had more than the page copied, so that might have been what it was.
I did. Okay, thank you. Let me just, oh, I did. How did it do that? Oh, it probably copied. That's because I have it on the split screen and I had, yeah. It's because I had asked for the display to be 35 lines. Okay, I learned that. All right, now I have the 25 lines. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm going to right click on copy, select lines. I'm not going to try and do this side by side. I'm going to open up my Corel page. Sometimes I can't get this to be in the center where I want it, but make it a little smaller. Now I'm going to click in here and paste. So notice it does not fill the page. What I have to do is change the font first of all. This is where we need the Braille 29 font up here where it highlighted says Braille from Braille 2000. I'm going to click on this drop down menu. Braille 29 is the one that I have. Why does it do that? I just used this the other day. This is where my Braille 29 font should show up. And I just did this the other day and I'm not sure why. Well, just try this. Say 29 over here. Does anybody know what's happening here? Why does this not say here? Because this font I did download on this computer. It might be that command I hit. So let me try this one more time. I'm going to right click on this. When I come over here, this is what this normally has to be set up a certain way when you first open the file, and this is the exact one I used the other day to demonstrate this to you. If I say no, maintain formatting only, try that. No, that's no good. I do want the Braille.
I always click discard format.
Well, I
on
haven't
that.
seen this. I haven't seen this on here before. Discard format,
Yes.
discard fonts and formatting.
Yes. And I always put my cursor up on line 1, cell
Yeah.
1.
Right. And I know that that's a thing that I've had somebody show me that before. I used to do that with a dip, but this template should work the way I did it on my other computer.
Okay.
I might not have the Braille 29 font on here. Can you make that? Is that in the chat?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
the link was
I
in the
forgot I
chat.
couldn't get this to. So where is Alexa? That Braille 29 font, I'm going to show how this works, how it doesn't work and how it does. Is that if Alexa's there and can drop that at the end? I'm scrolling back trying to find
Yeah,
it.
she just put it in there.
Thank
It's
you.
just a zip folder that has the font file in it.
It's downloaded onto my computer, and that should do it now.
Yeah, you probably just need to unzip the folder.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it now. Downloads, downloads. Oh, goodness. Downloads. Wasn't planning to have to look for this here. Just someplace. Finding downloads on this, I have to go through my files, Windows. So this is why you need the Braille 29 font.
You should, if you scroll up, it should on the side. Downloads is usually up towards the top.
Thank you. Okay, here it is. Just gonna, and that should do it. So I'm going to go back to this. And
I think if you didn't unzip, you have to unzip the folder first to install it because it was a zipped folder. So you just need to make sure you extracted it.
well, so does this not? I usually unzip by
Yeah, however you normally unzip, you'll just
I
need to
usually
do
just
that.
double click on it. I usually double click on it.
Okay, yeah,
And
as long as it's
yeah.
extracted,
Well,
you should
I'm
be
pretty
okay.
sure it's there. Select the destination. I don't care any place. Oh, extract. Okay. Save. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Now let's see what happens. Now I'm going to right click on this copy to copy the Braille 2000 page, and I have to copy it by lines for it to work over here. Click over here and paste. Well, I'm going to try maintaining fonts and formatting because there we go. That's what I need. That's what it will typically look like now I come up to the top. The font on there right now says Braille from Braille 2000. I'm going to select the Braille 29, which should be on here now because that's usually what happens. It's usually right at the top.
Did you install it?
I installed it on the computer, and that's usually
Oh,
enough.
you have to. Okay, let's see. Someone in the chat is saying you need to right click on the font and install.
Right click on the font where?
Probably in the folder where it's open would be my guess. Yeah, so the folder below it where you've unzipped it, the one below.
Sorry, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah.
And oh, installing. Thank you for that one. Okay. I'm just going to start this part over again, just in case, because let's go back and do this. You'll know how to copy the one page. Well, let's try it now. You need to. Oh, okay. Let's see. I guess it's here.
There it is.
Yeah, I usually see it with a 29 at the bottom, but okay, notice it changed over here. I also have to change the font size. It's highlighted in blue at 14. I just enter a 29 over that. Why are you not working? Okay. And click. Now I have the font the way it should be. I move this to the top left corner. There is a way to have it to do something with a text box, and maybe sometime we'll do a discussion group on that and learn from one another, because I've learned different ways. I stretch this to fill the page. After I've set the font properly, I stretch this to fill the page. So this is the page, and you'll see it's similar to this Braille page over here. I have the space in here for where the graphic goes, and now I have that in Corel. I go back to my image file, which I have misplaced, but sitting here. Here's the images for this book, and I just come down and select the Unit 1 images. I find the one I want. It happens to be this one on page 4. I copy it. See, I click in the Corel page where I want it. I paste. In order for that to work, you have to have this arrow up here, the select tool highlighted. I was trying to do it in text mode. It wouldn't work. Now I copy it. And I'm going to enlarge that to about what I want it to be. It's a scaling triangle. That's a little big because I need to leave room around it for the labels. And I'll just say, okay, there needs to be a blank line above and a blank line below. That'll probably work. I can always adjust it afterwards. I look at the labels, 8 feet, 10 feet, 3 feet. I come over into text mode, one of the tools in Corel. Where the capital A is, that's the text tool. Because I have the Braille 29 font on here, I can click here, and using ASCII code, I'm going to do numeric indicator 8. I'm using ASCII, right? Yes. I have to use an H, FT. And I like to do all my entering these at the same time while I'm in number 10, FT. 3 feet, numeric indicator, C space FT. All right, and then I see, why is the numeric indicator not working? Oh, it is. That's weird. I just had to click on it. Now I can either move it with it in text mode, or I can go up to the select tool to move it, and I just like using the select mode. So I have this. That is so weird. This is a new version I haven't used. 8 feet goes here. 10 feet goes here. Approximate. 3 feet goes here. And then I want to go back to my select tool and delete the print. And so I'm going to select right here where that print label is and delete. And it took out, well, first I have to draw the angle. Forgot that part. Okay, I'm using the line tool. There are triangle tools, there are shape tools, there's all kinds of tools in here. I'm just going to use one. So here's the, I don't like where that started. It'll give you that word intersect. This is not as easy as the, I'm actually drawing it a little bigger because I'm off on the print. See if that closed up. Then I delete the print page behind it. And I think I want to move that down a little bit. So I can move it around with my arrow tools. And that's just one example of how to insert a drawing on a Braille 2000 page. And once you have your font on there, it is not nearly as complicated or time consuming. I think I was using another computer the other day when I demonstrated this to you. I forget why.
Yeah, no problem. Jonathan put in the chat that you can hit Control Enter to change back to the select tool, apparently. So if you're working that way, you can hit Control Enter.
Wow. I
So
like
that's
So I'm
handy.
using this font. Yeah, the select tool is, well, it's not working. I don't know. I don't remember what version this is. Would that vary with version, Jonathan? Yeah, it didn't take me back. But
Okay. He also mentions that this if you uncheck the Snap to boxes at the top, it can be a lot easier to
yes, thank
draw, I
you.
think.
That's
But
yes, I don't like those. Sometimes they're helpful, but not in this case. Yeah, that would have made it easier to draw it.
and there was something you mentioned earlier in the chat, Jonathan, about a difference between the 2026 and 2025 version that made you want to go back to the 2025. Are the version differences documented very well with Corel? Like, is it easy to tell what you're going to get in the version that you have?
For
It's not well documented at all.
Okay.
I just had to try it and find out that my macros no longer work, and I
Oh,
I actually it inspired me to go from the subscription to actually paying for the 2025 version, which I had to get on eBay and wait to arrive. But that's the version that works with my macros, so I'm sticking with it. And the agency I work for needs it in like the 2021 or 2023 version, I think, and I just have all my files automatically save it to that version.
nice.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that was a great question, Liz, because
I've had to call them repeatedly on things. They're fairly receptive on putting things back if you do call them and mention that you have an issue with a specific change that they've made in the updated versions.
really, okay. I haven't tried calling them in years. I like calling in country and because they wanted to sell me a subscription, and I purchased the one where it's going to stay the same. Yeah, I'd rather have an old one. The Corel Draw will do all kinds of things. It'll design your house for you and all. And what we use as transcribers is a very limited portion of the tools on there. So I actually have someplace I have I forget what it's called. It's just a kind of a basic, stripped down version because I don't need designs and colors. Some of the tools you can't use because the tiger will not emboss them. So that's another thing. Like the paint tool, we have to use the shadings of black on here. We don't use the colors. There are some things that the tiger just won't recognize. So that's
Mm.
yeah. This might be a good people let us know in the chat if this would be if working this with Braille 2000 would be an a good discussion topic sometime
Oh
because
yeah, for the user group. Yeah,
we can learn a
absolutely.
lot from here. I'm learning a lot right now.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Rosemary. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen because we just have a few minutes left.
right.
But thank you for those demos. Does anyone have any, like, I think we have time for one or two other questions if anyone has any lingering questions. As I mentioned, we will be sharing out this recording. We'll post it online and I'll let you know when it's available, as well as we'll post the slide deck too. So you'll have access to that, as well as all the other recordings from this series. So we hope that you'll have a chance to go back, take a look, reflect on them. We are timestamping all of them because we know they are long videos. So hopefully you will be able to navigate just to the section that you are interested in within the particular training. With that, the exit survey QR code is up on the screen, and Alexa also put that link in the chat. This is a kind of a culminating exit survey for the whole series. So it is a little bit longer, but we'd really, really appreciate your input. It's very helpful to us as we're thinking about our future technical assistance, additional trainings, and content that would be helpful for you all as transcribers, and in particular, folks who use Braille 2000. So please do take a minute or two to complete that. We really, really appreciate it. We really take your comments to heart and try to provide the training that you all need. So thank you so much for being here, whether you only made it to 1 or 2 sessions or if you were here with us for all 6. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Rosemary,
Thank you,
for sharing your wisdom.
again. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your own wisdom. I love the collaboration. I have a quick question. Liz, did anybody reply in there about the font, the Braille? Any Braille readers say, yes, no, I have no problem switching between.
I didn't see any
Okay.
comments on that. Does anyone have any thoughts on the Braille font or opinions on it?
Braille readers, how easy is it to go from, say, a 29
Hmm.
to 30, 36 or whatever that is?
Yeah, it is a good question.
Because I know I've had students complain about it,
Really,
but that was back in the day.
I'm not seeing anyone chime in on it, but please do feel free.
Well, it may be limited numbers. So anyway, thank
I
you.
will go ahead and stop our recording.